Welcome back. We're unpacking issues that are affecting those in Saskatchewan. And joining me again is the former Minister of Agriculture and MP for over 20 years, Gerry Ritz. Gerry, we chatted quite a bit about the carbon tax. And really, that's kind of a federal mandate. Is there any room in the province? Because I'm pretty sure I recall Premier Scott Moe was almost like leading the charge against the carbon tax. Is that a dead issue? Is that here to stay? Is there anything else that can be done provincially if residents, as you said, about 90% are upset about it?
Well, we're watching Alberta take the provincial tax off in correlation to when the federal tax goes up. So they're facing a net zero change in their fuel taxes. Saskatchewan hasn't bit that bullet yet. They're continuing to collect their tax on the tax. Certainly there are things that Saskatchewan could be doing to make it a little less impactful on the province, but I haven't seen that movement yet out of the Sask Party government.
Moving on to the fertilizer ban, you and I have had a lengthy chat about this. Does this, and it's still in its hypothetical phase, shall we say? It's proposing. Do you think it's going to happen?
Yeah.
And what is the response from the provincial government? Or is this another one to fight back on?
Well, they're pushing back somewhat. Of course, agriculture is a shared jurisdiction, 60% federal, 40% federal when it comes to the pricing of and funding of and so on. But, you know, the province does do the administration at the provincial level. There's certainly more they could be doing. They're not. Saskatchewan, with its large land base, sequesters millions of tons of carbon every crop year. Every range acre has carbon sequestered on it. As cattle graze it down, it goes back. None of that's being addressed. There are packages that have been taken to the province. I was involved in one of them. They said, no, we're not doing that now. Then a few months later, they said, we're coming out with our own. They still haven't done that. And that can be there to adapt to and help farmers have the cash flow they need to adapt to this stuff as well. The fertilizer thing is still bubbling away out there. The federal Liberals are saying it's all voluntary. We've seen how a voluntary firearms registry went with them, and nobody trusts them at all. Farmers are light years ahead of what this government is demanding, but they get no credit for the type of agriculture that we do here already that is already seeing less fertilizer used than they're calling for. So I don't understand these dictates coming out of Ottawa. They're feel-good things for Toronto and Montreal and maybe even Vancouver, but at the end of the day, they're going to impact the price and the availability of foodstuffs in Canada.
So, you know, you use a good word, dictate. So when these, you know, dictates, as you say, come from Ottawa, and I know there's obviously a very delicate balance between provincial and federal jurisdiction, but what can the province do? What can Premier Scott Moe do? What else can be done? Does this all have to be litigated in court?
Well, it could come down to that. That's unfortunate because taxpayers pay for all sides in that fight. Nobody wins in that regard.
Right.
But confederation is an agreement held by the provinces to make a federal entity. And they have a lot more autonomy. And Quebec has shown us that over the years, what they can and cannot do. I mean, the carbon tax in Quebec is half what it is in the rest of Canada. Why is that? Because they stood up and said, not here. Take a hike, Mr. Trudeau.
Right.
And they'll continue to do that. So there's a lot more provincial autonomy that could be used than they're playing on right now. When it comes to firearms, it's as simple in my mind as a legally attained and owned firearm is personal property. That's provincial jurisdiction. That's provincial rights. Back off, Mr. Trudeau. But we're not seeing that type of thing applied. The provincial government here has come out with a new program where they will step in and make sure I get an equitable amount for any firearm the federal government takes. Well, I don't want them to take them at all. That's sort of like sending the referee into the penalty box after I'm in there and saying, you got your 2 minutes because of this, but I'm going to cut it to a minute and a half. That it's ridiculous in the extreme. If they had to announce something, that's as far as it went. That was ridiculous.
So you brought up the firearms ban, and I'm glad you did because I was going to go there next. So how, you know, I'm in Ontario, you're in Saskatchewan. Well, physically you're in Arizona right now, but you're from Saskatchewan. How big of an issue is this in Saskatchewan? The firearms ban, the buyback program, how big of an issue is that?
It's huge. I mean, I ran my first campaign in 1993. The firearms issue was bubbling then. Alan Rock was saying $2 million and we'll register them all. Of course, it turned into a $2 billion debacle. And now he's out protecting the Trudeau Foundation. At the end of the day, this is the thin edge of the wedge. People see this in Saskatchewan as an overexcited federal government continuing to try and grab what they have legally attained. Yes, there's a very small percentage of the population that go too far. but people get killed by cars, people get killed, in a myriad of different ways. And that's always unfortunate. But at the end of the day, this is a property rights issue that needs to be settled and not keep bubbling along. As you said, I'm down here in Arizona. It's an open carry state. You go into Walmart, people are packing on their hip, and it's not hurting anyone.
I got to pause you there. We got to cut to commercial.
Sure.
We'll be right back.